They that go down to the sea in ships and do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. The blue waters of the Mediterranean are one of the busiest seaports in the world. This is a trade route that has seen the quinquerenes of Nineveh and the galleys of Solomon in ages past, and now sees the iron ships of 20th century commerce steaming in with cargoes of modern merchandise. This building is the nautical typer, for modern seafaring is a scientific business, and the State of Israel has approached it in a scientific manner. She is training her own seamen, officers and crews to man the ships she sends to sea. The life of the seafarer is sternly disciplined, and the recruit learns this from the very first in the routine of the nautical training school. The human raw material always looks rather unpromising, for turning a landlubber into a sailor is one of the most startling transformations known to man. But soon these men will smarten up until they're unrecognizable. The arts of the seafarer will be learnt the practical way, even the hard way. Every trick of the sea, every developed in the minds and hearts of these young Jews, who for generations have been kept remote from the bounding main by the walls of the ghetto and the city trades to which they had perforce to turn. But all that is changing now because of the importance to Israel of her maritime trade and with the growth of such institutions as the Israel Maritime League. In charge of the training school is a seasoned veteran of many voyages, Captain Enrico Levy, who has sailed the seas and cast his anchor here amongst his fellow Jews. With his wealth of practical experience and his knowledge of human values, he has come to Israel to pass on the law he has gathered in many stormy seas. Here the cadets are at their studies. The mathematics of navigation, the routine of ship's watches, knots and sails and helmsmanship, these are the things that may be taught in a classroom. Everything is new, but it's implanted firmly to stay for the rest of their lives. Captain Levy runs his institution on strict nautical lines, with everything ship-shape and Bristol fashion. Modern seafaring is, of course, not all a matter of sails and cunning rope knots. It's a matter of engineering, with mechanical skill at a premium down in the engine room where the heart of a ship pulses life into the screws. Skill with a metal file might mean all the difference between bringing a ship home to port or having her founder beneath you. This engineer in the making is a South African who came to Israel on a bursary from the South African Friends of the Israel Maritime League. He lives in a boarding house with all the others, a shore establishment run like a ship. In the mess, the cadets get down to stoking the boilers with a will. Here is all the camaraderie of the forecastle or the wardroom. Already the transformation is beginning to be apparent. The sailor's skill at tying a variety of knots, each for a different and practical purpose, is basic to the true seafarer. And these boys of the school have to know them all, from a running bowline to a Turk's head. The youthful trainees make themselves familiar with the intricacies of the sextant, that universal instrument for plotting your position at sea. Shooting the sun is also basic practice. Working a ship may not require the rigging of sails so often now as once it did, but a man is only half a sailor if he doesn't understand by very instinct why a sail is hoisted just so, and how and where. The rigs of different ships at sea are all the product of generations of practical knowledge of the winds and tides, and this has to be imbibed by the would-be sailor until it's part of his very fibre. These are cadets who have graduated from the school, serving their time as junior officers for a year or two on ocean-going ships. And here is the final product, 3 officers who have passed out of the course as fully trained shipmasters. In Haifa there is a home for sailors, a haven of rest ashore for all who have come home from the sea for a spell. Stored in the museum attached to the home are many relics of earlier voyages. The Israel Maritime League is thus building up in yet another way the edifice of maritime trade, of business in the great waters. But back to the practical business of ships and shipping. On the Yukon River, which meets the sea just outside Tel Aviv, a body of sea scouts puts out in a boat. Oarsmanship is one of the fundamental skills, and you learn that only by blistering your hands. These young enthusiasts are part-time sailors whose activities are supported by the Israel Maritime League with funds and instructors. The Sea Scout movement is calling for new training personnel all the time. The sea is a hard mistress with many moods. These breakers pound upon the bar at the mouth of the Yukon, and getting through them with a whaleboat is proof indeed of seamanship and courage. Sooner or later, as a seaman, you're going to have to fight with the waves when the sea is in one of her angry moods, and this is a beginning. What matter if your boat gets upset and you get drenched? You're at that moment getting steeped in the salt water that is to be your element from now on. But once safely beyond the bar and through those turbulent breakers, the crew find themselves on gentler waters and turn to the job of setting masts and hoisting sails. Soon the sails are set, and the craft goes skimming and dancing over the waves. These boys are sailing those same waters that their biblical forefathers sailed so long ago, when Solomon shipped his cedars from Lebanon to build the temple in Jerusalem. And now, as a demonstration of seamanship, the small boats are going to compete with one another. They're off to a nautical race. The small craft are scudding before the wind in a show of nautical skill up the coast from Tel Aviv to Acre. All sail is set to catch the last ounce of breeze, and the little ships heel over under the pressure of canvas. It's a sight to stir the hearts of anyone with a grain of salt in his bloodstream. The race begins early in the morning and isn't finished until the whole course is run up the coast of Israel, ending sometime about nightfall. These two little ships are lying second and third and battling it out with superlative seamanship at the rudder and sheet. Here is the winner, who eventually got home first from the grueling run. We caught her as she ran past Haifa, with the Carmel in the background. Later, there's the ceremony of the prize giving. Everyone who took part in the race is there to do honor to the messmates who proved their worth. The trophies are presented by Dr. Rosen of the Israel Ministry of Education. Simple pride of seamanship shows in the faces of the winning crew. Mr. Sharia, the national president of the Israel Maritime League, is on hand to signify Israel's approval of the skills shown by these budding Argonauts. There's a sailor's home in Tel Aviv. The men who work Israel's mercantile marine take their ease there. It's another establishment maintained by the Israel Maritime League. On this map is traced the route of one of the refugee ships that carried their cargoes of human misery from Nazi-ridden Europe to Israel in the dark days that lie behind. Here are recreation facilities and exhibits of interest to visitors. Games rooms are available for all types of relaxation, and there are journals to divert the sailor's leisure hour. All seafaring is not carrying cargoes. Down at the southernmost tip of Israel is Eilat, a tiny outpost on the Red Sea. Here is a fishing industry, for the warm waters are teeming with marine life. And so you see the time-honored picture of fishermen spreading their nets. The culture of every people with a sea coast has this tableau somewhere in its art. Tanned and grizzled by the sun, the wind and the waves, is a fisherman of modern Israel. He is an Italian from Tripoli, Andrea Sessler, who has lived in Israel since 1949. And this is Emil Hamburger, a Jew from Hamburg, sure enough. A man who first saw his destiny when he walked the quays of Germany's great port on the Elbe and watched the shipping of 100 nations passing in parade before him. He landed up in Israel to contribute his knowledge of the ways of the sea to his new country. There are a number of fishing kibbutzim in Israel, each developing the harvest of the sea. Wherever they are not yet making their way, the Israel Maritime League is supporting them, providing the training and equipment and, not least, the encouragement. And here is the harvest, the shining silver treasure yielded up by the sea. Israel's diet is still short of protein, but these fish gathered in her home waters are a significant contribution. There'll be fresh fish on many a table in Israel this Shabbat. All this, in every phase, is the affair of the Israel Maritime League. In his office, Dr. Bender, the General Secretary, has a broad view of all the work that is going forward so steadily in the building up of Israel's position as a maritime power. Israel is one of the bigger shipping operators in the Mediterranean, and more vessels hoist the blue and white flag of Israel every day. The standing navy is just one more manifestation of the enormous development in recent years. In Israel's busy harbors, the cargoes are stowed or landed as the traffic streams between the manufacturers of Israel and the rest of the world. And this is the new concern of hundreds of people in Israel today, the ploughing of the seas to produce a harvest for the nations, the making of men who know the oceans and the winds, and the building up of a maritime skill. The Israel Maritime League is in the forefront of this development, the most significant development of all in the making of the Israeli people. There can be no redemption of the people without the redemption of the sea.